Hey YouTube, it's Mike here. I had some questions on basically it's a screw press. I've messed around with these here and there, different things. Um, and this is one that we have. We use it for like your tomatoes, your grapes, for tomato juice and grape juice, and it'll do a bit of pulpy stuff because of the size of the screen, which we'll look at closer here in just a second. This is for a project a friend of mine's working on, and so I will do a second video on some other things I think that can be done. But we'll look at this quick and look at how it works and what I think makes this a good sort of platform. First thing, we have this tray here. You set a bowl under it. And then it's got a handle here, which I would obviously change with a motor if it wasn't my wife's. So you turn that, there's a screw in there. Put whatever in the hopper. It kind of has to be able to fit down the hole, so if, say, you were going to try to crush apples for cider, it'd be a no-go. But this could be enlarged, or you could maybe set up some sort of a thing with a double roller and some spikes to even just crush an apple or tear it apart enough to fit down there. Unless, of course, you could somehow quick heat the apple enough that it would maybe release a little extra juice or something. Grapes and tomatoes and such, as long as you can get them down this hole. A lot of times we pre-cook tomatoes just enough to make them squishy to fit in there. So to take it apart, that's where stuff goes in. This is where the liquids come out, and then this end here is where the solids come out. And I have, especially with tomatoes, if I'm doing more of a paste, I will run things through a couple of times. So I'll recycle the solids to get more of the pasty stuff. So this is pretty simple here. It's just a wire. That comes off. And then you drop it. Then there's a screw here. Now on this particular one, because this is plastic, there's a little bit of a problem. Now this was my wife's grandparents, which is why it doesn't have a motor on it, partially. I'm not sure. I know this is getting a little worn here. And then to keep this screen from turning, there's some notches. And you can see it's been spun a few times, because what happens is when because of the angle of everything here, when you get really dry and material heading through, it starts to put a lot of pressure on this. And so if you were doing, say you wanted to make something like this for, say, rolling oil out of sunflower seed, this would need to be a lot more substantial, because you're going to break it with all the pressures you're going to build. And also it would need to be a little more heat resistant, because although we run, say, hot tomatoes through here, that's not the same as pressing an oil. If you press an oil too fast and hard, you can pretty well light it on fire. So that's an issue there. But basically the interior is smooth. I don't know if you could picture either casing this in something or what, but that's kind of how it is there. The handle pops off, and then this corkscrew pops out. Now, one of the things I will point out, if you're building something like this or modifying, this end here, if you're doing liquidy type things, I don't know if it ever had a seal in it, but it will leak a little bit of really fine juice every so often, depending on what you're running. If you look at the way this screw is formed, you start with the bigger flights here, and you narrow down the flights, and you narrow down the circumference of the unit. And that's what causes your pressing action. Now, this being plastic, I don't think you could run anything too hard through here. These being rounded or even sharpened may be a decent idea. I know I've messed with that. And overall, this machine, if you've got a bunch of stuff to process, you can wind through a whack of tomatoes. I mean, we do pretty well 5 gallons of juice at a time, which is our biggest pot. And it's no problem. And it doesn't take that long. And especially, yeah, it's because it can be a continuous process. I usually get my wife to keep feeding it, and I keep turning the crank and changing out dishes at the ends, and so it goes pretty well. So that's how this one is made, and I'm going to stop this here because apparently all my friends have very short attention spans, although I guess I should just tell them to get over it. This is part 1. I'm going to go to a part 2, which is the screw press and some ideas I have for modifying and changing for different applications, or more multiple applications possibly. Okay, ciao.